seniors sharing their knowledge and information and experience with young people who need their attention and help. What a great idea and a great program. Learn more coming up next on Connecting Our Community. Hi, I'm Pat Shoemaker. Welcome to Connecting Our Community. Our guests tonight are Tricia Wilson, the Assistant Director of Volunteer Outreach for the Heyman Interages Center, and Bill Torrey, an outstanding volunteer with that program. Welcome to both of you. First of all, Tricia, what is the Interages program?
Sure. Interages is a program of the Jewish Council for the Aging. We've been around almost 30 years, and we're really dedicated to bringing the generations together in Montgomery County. So we have a lot of programs that bring senior volunteers, all of whom are age 50 or better, into the public schools to tutor and mentor students. And then we also have programs where we connect students with seniors living in adult care facilities, nursing homes, and assisted living facilities. So we're all about intergenerational programming.
Yeah. And I love how you said 50 or better.
That's right.
Because you do get better.
That's
apparently. Right. But you are not that old, unless you really had a lot of work done. How did you get involved with a program like this?
I've been with Interages for about 5 years, and I have a background in social work. I also taught, and I've done volunteer management. So for me, it was kind of the perfect fit.
But I can understand how you'd want to be a volunteer and how you would want to be involved in social work and things like that. But why particularly this program? What attracted you to this particular program?
I think what I like best about Interages is I feel like we really harness the resources that are the senior adults in Montgomery County. So we have, a wealth of people in the county that have a lifetime of experience, folks who've taught for 30 years and want to still give back to their community and connect with kids, and equally people who never taught, were never in a classroom, but still have a lot of wisdom and knowledge that they can impart on kids in the schools. So it's a great opportunity to connect people with programs involving students where they wouldn't normally be in a public school.
Yeah. And Bill, how did you get involved in this program?
Well, at the end of 2011, I retired after 52 years in broadcast journalism.
As anyone can tell who's listening to your voice.
My wife was very concerned. I had been something of a workaholic, and she said, "Oh, now you're just going to become a couch potato." I assured her that was not going to happen, so I started checking out all of the community operations to see what might appeal to me. When I was a young father, perhaps my most joyous moments occurred at bedtime when I would read to my daughter. She'd bring a giant stack of books, and I would read to her until she fell asleep, and very shortly she was reading to me before she went to school. And I thought this would be wonderful to do something like this. I also, throughout my career, 52 years of it, wrote millions of words and read millions of words, and I can't imagine a life without reading. So I'm involved in several of the programs where we do a lot of reading. And I also came up through those 52 years with great mentors at every step of the way who guided me when I was a very young man and even into my old age. And
which you have not yet reached, I would imagine.
I'm at that better stage that Tricia mentioned, way beyond it maybe. But I wanted to return the favor and become a mentor myself and give back to the community.
So as a volunteer, what are your responsibilities?
Well, I'm involved in 3 of the programs. Interages has a number of programs. Tricia can outline them all. But I'm with Grand Readers, which is a very structured program where we help second graders. We're paired off with an individual second grader, and we take them through an entire academic year with a structured program of particular books. And you can see dramatic growth in their reading skills by the time the year is over. I'm also a pre-K reader. They don't read in that particular program. I read to them. and we color, and quite frankly, I wear different clothing than this. I get down on the floor sometimes, and we're playing with blocks and doing things that you would with a 4-year-old. And I'm also with the Intergenerational Bridges program. Last year I was at Daly Elementary in Montgomery County in Germantown. This year I'll be at Gaithersburg. And I'm also helping a new program, the Intergenerational Bridges program at Gaithersburg High School. There, we're paired with young people who have recently come to the United States, dealing with our culture, explaining things like Thanksgiving, or how is American football different from soccer, and so forth. Yeah. And reading, we read and deal with all kinds of activities. We, for example, at Daly last year, developed a puppet show that we actually put on YouTube.
Oh.
Yeah, so a little bit of everything.
So do you find that you get as much out of it as the children do?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, they bring youthful energy. Many of them are from other parts of the world. We, for example, in pre-K last year had people from Iran, from Africa. We had Latin American countries well represented. Yeah, you get other cultural viewpoints. It's a wonderful experience on both ends.
Yeah.
Highly recommended to anybody out there.
Yes, it really, yeah, it sounds like the perfect blend for children who may not have grandparents of their own or be around older people, for older people who may not have grandchildren who need to be around the younger people to get hip. But
many of the grandparents, for example, are in a foreign land.
Yeah.
And so they don't see them very often, if at all.
And so do you find that you're interacting with the whole family, or is it really strictly for the children at the schools?
Generally, it's with the children at school. But on occasion, mom or dad will come to school on an open house day, for example, and we get to meet them, which is always a thrill.
Yeah.
Because they've heard a lot about us, and we hear a lot about them.
Yes, I'll bet.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing this?
Well, since I retired in 2011, almost immediately thereafter. I met up with Tricia, and she signed me up.
And have you followed any of the children
Oh,
that
absolutely.
you've worked with? And,
Yes.
and have you seen any things that you were able to strictly relate to the interaction that you all had had?
Right. At Gaithersburg Elementary, where I've been for 3 years now, I see them in the halls all the time. For example, all my pre-K kids line up just as I come in now in kindergarten, and so they all wave to me as I go by. So, and I will bump into people at banks and grocery stores. So, yeah.
That's very exciting. So, Tricia, as a volunteer, what would the requirements be? Bill was saying he had never been a teacher, but he has had mentors. Is that all that's needed, or do you do any kind of other training or have requirements?
Yeah, we do. Well, really the main requirement is just wanting to work with a student. So, you know, like I said, whereas we do attract a lot of retired teachers, it's definitely not a requirement to be a retired teacher. The commitment is typically about an hour a week for each program, and it's usually the length of the school year. So we are looking for folks who can commit to doing something on a weekly basis with the same student for the length of the school year. We do offer training, so we'll get you trained up on the particular program that you're signing up for. Usually it's familiarizing you with certain materials that you're going to be using, or just kind of the structure of how we're going to run the program. Obviously, for a lot of folks, they haven't been in the public schools in a long time. So we also just kind of want to give them the lay of the land of what it's like to be in the public schools these days. You know, and recognize that we are invited to be in the schools, and our volunteers are invited to be there, and you know that we want to be good guests while we're there.
And so for the training, if you could only commit to a month, perhaps you go to Florida for 6 months of the year, or whatever the case may be, would you then not be able to volunteer? I mean, is it that structured that you really have to be willing to give the full academic year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely do have snowbirds, so I have people in my program, you know, who go to Florida during the winter months, and Yay for them. So for folks who do that, I love to bring them on as substitutes. I always can use substitutes in my program. So, you know, when I have people who are going to be out of town, perhaps they're traveling or they're taking a little extended vacation, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, then I can bring those substitutes in and they can work with those students in the volunteer's absence. I do also have a couple of programs that are short term. One is called Dialogues Across the Ages, and it is a discussion circle for high school students and senior adults. And we structure that one about 6 to 8 weeks. So for people who can't do the year-long commitment, that's kind of a nice opportunity for them as well.
And how are the students chosen? We're coming up to the break, so I'm asking you a question that probably is going to take too long to answer.
Okay.
But is it open to all students in the school system?
It again depends on the program. So just using the examples of Bill's programs, the Grand Readers is all for second graders. And these are kids that are selected because they're reading a little bit below grade level. So their teachers identify them and they think that they can benefit from some one-to-one support from a tutor. The other program with which he volunteers, Intergenerational Bridges, that's a mentoring program for ESOL students. So all of those kids are recent immigrants to the States and they're all learning English.
As a second language.
That's right.
For those who don't know.
Yep, so they are referred by their ESOL teacher at school. Other programs like the high school dialogues program, those kids are actually in leadership classes at the high school. So it's sort of a different twist on a population that we're working with. And then the kids who go into the nursing homes and the assisted living facilities, those are sort of long-standing relationships we've had with particular elementary schools, private schools. We've also brought in some homeschool groups and new partnerships with some youth centers around town. So we like to engage as many kids and adults as we can.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds so well-rounded and so all-inclusive. We are coming to the first break, so we'll be back to talk more about this. This is a great program. Please stay with us for the second half of Connecting Our Community. We'll be back after these messages.
For care as special as your child, we offer medical child care with nurses on site located in Rockville. As a program of the ARC of Montgomery County, we provide a typical child care environment, meeting the needs of medically fragile children, including daily nursing assessments, while learning through a state-approved curriculum. If you know of a child between 6 weeks and 5 years old who needs our services, contact us at the Family, Infant, and Child Care Center at 301-279-2165.
I knew I needed help paying for college. I've always wanted to be a teacher. I used to make worksheets for my friends to do. No one ever wanted to come over. My guidance counselor told me about federal student aid, and my mom helped me fill out the free application. I got the grants and loans that made school possible. There is a way to pay for school. You just have to find it. My name is Caitlin. I'm going to be a special education teacher. I'm going to live my dream.
My name is TJ.
My name's Phil.
My name is Hope.
My name is Michael.
You're watching Channel 21. Bye-bye.
Hi, welcome back to Connecting Our Community. We're here with Tricia Wilson and Bill Torrey, who work with, volunteer for, and run the Interages program. So just before we went to the break, we were talking about how students are chosen. And so is there a very specific number of students who are chosen for each of the classes? It's not across the board every second grader or every high schooler.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so within the second grade program, it's usually 2 to 3 students per second grade classroom. It kind of depends on the school and how many kids they refer to us, but typically we're in a position that the more volunteers we have, the more students we can serve. Particularly with our after-school programs, which is the Bridges mentoring program. When we're after school and we have access to basically the school and we have multiple rooms where we can be doing our program, the more volunteers that show up to help out, the more kids we can serve.
And do you ever have to turn children away? Is there a waiting list?
There are several waiting lists, yeah. So usually what we do, we get a list of referrals from the school to start the school year, and then we'll match the kids up to get things started. And if we only have 10 volunteers but we have 12 students signed up, then we'll have 2 on the waiting list. So as volunteers come in during the school year, the good news is that you don't have to get started in September in order to participate. You can come in at any time during the school year and we can get you matched up with a student.
Yeah. And Bill, have you ever had any experiences with students that maybe your personalities didn't fit, or there were maybe not as many happy things as you would want?
No, I've been very fortunate.
And so have the children, I'm sure.
All of the kids, you know, I'm a funny-looking old man, so it takes maybe a day or two for them to get used to me, because you know, they're in some cases only 4 years old or 7 or 8, and to see a fellow who's 60 years older or something is a little shocking to many of them, because they haven't seen their grandparents in many cases. Nevertheless, I've had wonderful experiences with all of them. Some have brought issues to school, and where I can deal with those on a non-professional level, and certainly making no effort to be professional in any way, I try to help them to the extent I can. And on one occasion, I've had to inform the teachers, and they've taken care of things, and it was pretty straightforward. But no, we've had personality matches, and I think that's one of the things the program tries to do. Each school has a coordinator that has been working with Interages for generally some time, and they do a good job of pairing us off. A rambling answer, but
No,
the short version of it is we've gotten along very well.
Yeah, that's
in all of the
perfect-
programs,
yeah,
all of the programs.
The
Yeah.
perfect answer. And Tricia, tell us a little bit about the specific programs and what kinds of volunteers you need as a plea to have people.
I'm always good at the plea.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can always use more volunteers in essentially all of the programs. I can tell you this year we are bringing the Bridges Mentoring Program for ESOL students, which is English for speakers of other languages, to Gaithersburg High School. It's going to be our first year at Gaithersburg High, and the students are very recent immigrants, so they can really benefit from a lot of support. The more volunteers we can involve, yay Bill, the more students we can help. So that's definitely a place where I can get people plugged in. Within the second grade reading program, we're bringing it for the first year to Sequoia Elementary School, which is kind of in the Durwood, Olney area. Again, the more volunteers I have, the more students we can serve. We're bringing dialogues to Gaithersburg High this year. We're kind of gravitating up county lately. We've been around almost 30 years. I'd say we were real heavy down county at our inception, and then kind of have slowly creeped more up county. So I feel like we have a lot of opportunities scattered from Tacoma Park all the way to Germantown, and working with pre-K all the way to high school. So typically if a volunteer has a specific interest or a population of kids they're interested in working with, I can get them plugged into a program. And if it's not one of ours, I try to do a good job too of referring people out to other programs which are similar.
Now, for the ESOL program, or for any of them, is a second language in the volunteer a requirement or a request?
That's a great question. It is not, although a lot of people often think that it is. We really, with Bridges, we try to say that it's sort of an English-only environment. It's, kind of almost an immersion kind of program, just like the kids are being immersed when they're at school. We recognize when the kids go home, they're probably going back to their first language, so we really see this as an hour and a half in their week to kind of carve out with that extra English practice. If you do speak another language, and in particular these days I would say Spanish, it can be of help to you in working with your students, sometimes just to kind of move things forward a little bit. So if they're struggling with a word and you can, find that word for them in Spanish, it'll kind of propel things forward. But it's definitely not a requirement to speak another language.
And Bill, you're shaking your head. Do you speak another language?
Hablo un poco de español. And I'll tell you what, I encourage all of the students, especially from the grand readers on up through Bridges, to learn to read in their native language as well. I encourage them because I tell them, if you can speak your language and English and write it too well, you will be hired all over the United States for the rest of your life. And so we encourage them to learn their own culture, but we stick strictly to English in our programs, yeah. And it seems to work.
Yeah, that's really great, and I would imagine that the children are getting so much benefit from it, but the older people who volunteer get so much out of this. I volunteered for several years with a second grade class, as it happens, and it was just by the end, you know, at the beginning, as you say, at the beginning of the school year, they're a little tentative and they don't know, you know, who is this person and how am I supposed to act around this person or whatever. But by the middle of the school year, you know, we were old buddies, and they were always trying to play tricks on me and, you know, pranks and things like that. Right. So it was really fulfilling to me as well as I'm hoping, you know, that they got something out of it too. Yeah.
We have a great quote actually from one of our volunteers. She was a Bridges mentor for 18 years before she retired from mentoring, and she's quoted as saying, "This is the best thing I ever did for myself." So, you know, she had this great relationship with her students. She actually attended weddings. She saw, you know, kids have their first child, you know, along the way, and, you know, really formed deep, really great relationships with the kids. But I think at her core, she recognized how much it had done for her as well.
Right, exactly. I would say that as well. And so how does somebody become a volunteer?
So the first step is to, you know, kind of learn about the programs. You can do that visiting our website, and, you know, kind of pick and choose what works best for you. If you're interested in the elementary school kids, we have a lot of opportunities, but then on up through middle and high school as well. We do have a volunteer application. It's online as well. And so you complete that application, return it to me, and then we'll kind of go from there. It usually starts with an interview, one-to-one. That's how Bill and I started. And then depending on what you're interested in, we'll get you trained up and then placed in the schools.
And this is, although it is through the Jewish Council, as you mentioned, it is, as far as I understand, it is not limited to only Jewish volunteers or only Jewish children, or
absolutely not.
Nothing.
Non-denominational, serving people of all faiths, ethnicities, and walks of life, as JCA likes to say.
That's very well done.
Yeah.
And do you ever have children volunteer to work with younger children? For example, the high school students possibly work with the younger children, or is this really strictly adults working with children?
Primarily what we're doing is seniors and students. We do have some programs where we will involve students as sort of a leadership in training role, or like a mentor in training. We've done that before in some of our mentoring programs. So kids who have participated in Bridges maybe at the elementary school level, and then when they're in middle school, they still want to stay connected with the mentoring program, and we'll bring them back as sort of mentors in training, and they'll be sort of program assistants for our program coordinators. So that's a nice opportunity for them. We can actually give them SSL hours, the student service learning hours, and they can fulfill that volunteer requirement.
That's great. So we have about a minute left. Bill, do you want to put in an extra plug, or?
I would recommend, especially to all of my peers who are in broadcast journalism, this is a natural for you, because you're dealing with words, you're reading, and you're helping kids learn to write. And I'm all the way from pre-K to high school, the whole range, and everyone is a joy.
Well said. Tricia, the last word?
Last word, we never have too many volunteers. There's no such thing. So my job, that is good job security for me. I always need to be recruiting more volunteers.
And I'm sure that you never run out of children who want to
Absolutely
get
not.
into the
It's
program.
only growing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm sure, do the kids sort of see each other and, you know, well, why is she getting that extra care? Why can't I do that? Do you ever get any kind of that?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Ours are special kids, and
In
they
a good
feel,
way.
and they
Yeah.
yes, and they feel that way.
Yeah, that's great. This is a great program. I really hope everybody listens and takes this to heart. There's no horrible downside to it. It's just the best thing that you can do to give of yourself. Of course, if you're a little bit older and have nothing else to do, this is the perfect way to do it. So I'd like to thank Tricia and Bill. The program is called Interages, so please go to their website for more information. You can go to accessjca.org or call 301-949-3551 or send an email to interages@accessjca.org. And as always, you can visit the Connecting Our Community blog on mymcmedia.org for more information. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you the next time on Connecting Our Community. Call.